You ever watch something and like you're kind of zoning out and you start drooling for like a little bit and you catch yourself?
Oh my god,
you stop.
I'm not that bad yet. What are you, 80?
No, like, listen, you don't actually drool, but like you feel it welling up a little bit and you're like, oh wow, because like you're so spaced out.
I think we're learning a lot about each other today. Because I gotta tell you, I don't think I've done that. I don't think I have.
You have. You definitely have.
I'm just too scared to admit it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not being honest. I don't want to compromise what little masculinity I've got.
You drooling bitch.
Well, speaking of masculinity and honesty, today's podcast
is brought to you by
coronavirus.
COVID-19.
This is the worst intro we've ever done.
You don't know that. There's many more to go. I mean, we'll probably be alive for at least another 20 to 30 years.
No, with coronavirus.
Yeah.
I guess there's only one way to find out. Thanks for joining us. Welcome back to the Nailed It podcast, y'all. As usual, we're coming at you pre-recorded here from our Nailed It headquarters all around New York State, which, due to the proceedings, if you haven't heard, has been canceled. New Jersey, Connecticut, pretty much all of the United States has been canceled due to the coronavirus, and this is our quarantine edition. We're not going to be stopping. No virus, no matter how Chinese, is going to stop us.
Whoa.
With me is my buddy Glen. Why don't you say hi to us, Glen?
Hi, how are you? How's everyone doing?
Oh, I think I know how they're doing. That's a pretty stupid question.
You're right.
Now shut up for the rest of the evening. And my friend Lou as well is with us. Please say hi to all, Lou.
Hi to all, Lou.
There you go. Keeping consistent. I like it. So, normally we do like to talk about some movies on this podcast. That is going to be a little bit difficult, seeing as movies are now canceled. There are no more movies. No more movies will be released due to the coronavirus outbreak. So it made it a little hard to go to the movies, since I guess it really kind of snuck up on us. We didn't really get a chance to see a whole lot, and I know a lot of people are checking out Netflix and streaming content, but you know what? That's beneath us, okay? We're going to do our damnedest to get you the most recent films, give you some amazing commentary. But before we do that, let's just talk a little bit about the scenarios we've been in. How's everyone holding up? Like, Glenn, how have you been holding up for quarantine? What have you been occupying your time with?
Alcohol.
Yeah?
Yeah, pretty much.
What kind?
Quarantinis.
So not like ethanol or like.
That's gonna come later.
It's because the wells have run dry. We're actually we're threatened here in New York City and New York State. We'll be shot on sight if we attempt to flee our domicile.
Right, well, we haven't found out for sure yet. I think that's going to be determined later on today. I'd say 30. We probably should have heard by now.
I just assume shot on sight typically, and
yeah, that's what I'm going to go with until I hear otherwise.
3 months ago, I had a feeling this is going to be a big deal, and I stocked up on all the toilet paper and Imperial I could. I cleared out the entire state and killed like 3 men who tried to get to it. I've been eating nothing but toilet paper, making sure my immune system is really clean. No one's getting to my stash.
Well, if you eat toilet paper, you don't need toilet paper.
Yeah, it wipes you on the way out.
Yeah, exactly.
I can confirm that is fake news.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, it actually really hurts, and I've needed toilet paper more than ever.
Yeah.
Lou,
yes.
Have you been holding up in quarantine? Do you still have a mind?
Well,
or did you lose it?
I've been working. I've been doing a lot for the other channel. Been playing Animal Crossing. I've actually been drinking surprisingly little.
Comparatively?
Yeah, like I thought it would have been like alcohol abuse until we're on quarantine, but in fact, I think I don't know. I think I've had like the beers I had were involved in a joke on the other channel, so like it was kind of like work beers.
Yeah, I immediately grabbed Coronas, like a 12-pack of Corona the moment this shit started getting like insane, just for the memes. So that we do live in a world where a beer company's stock can go down exclusively because Corona's in their name. That's and that people will drink fish tank cleaner in order to stay safe from the virus.
That study, I feel like my duty to say this, was actually fake news.
Yeah, I had a feeling. They did tweet about it.
Yeah, they did tweet about it.
Which was funny.
Because I think there was a thing trending on Twitter saying that the two were related, and I think the company made a statement about it. But as far as that, whatever that survey that was going around, that said like 35% of Americans or 38, whatever the hell it was, that was not true. Now here's the thing though. If there was a survey, I would not doubt that many people would think that. I think that's what's scary about some fake news is like when it's just believable enough.
Right.
Like Jack's Films did that video where he like had people help him make fake news, and one of the ones that he put on that video was like 1 in 5 people from Mississippi can't spell Mississippi, and that was not true. But every time I spell Mississippi, I hesitate a little because there's a lot of S's and a lot of P's in there. And I would not be shocked if that was true.
Yeah, so this just in. People lie. Mark Zuckerberg, save us all. That's my PSA.
God bless.
Well, we've attempted to keep going on Nailed It. I've certainly picked up on my gaming channel.
Hell yeah.
Doing some more videos there. Temporarily stopped work on the documentary, but we got a pretty solid rough cut on that. Bronx Underground documentary. Little music scene documentary. We'll put a link to the trailer in that if you haven't seen it. And we also are working on a nice short film exclusively shot on Super 8. Stay tuned for that. That might be quite sick. More sick than COVID. We're just kind of staying inside and playing a lot of Doom Eternal. That game is blowing my balls off. I was pretty hyped / worried. Oh, man. I'm amazed to say that it exceeded my expectations. And it seems like a lot of people are liking it.
I'm not necessarily the biggest shooter fan myself. Like, it's not like I dislike them, but I'm having a blast with Doom. I'm just not playing on the hardest difficulty is all. But I find it a trip. It's so fun and loud and bombastic, like the metal and the blood and guts and shit. Like, it's just so it's delightful, especially like for me, who I've been spending a lot of time on Animal Crossing. Going to that is like the polar opposite, which is a lot of fun for me.
And Mick Gordon's soundtrack, again, like, I think sometimes it still gets a little too glitch hoppy for my taste, but even when it does, it's mostly very fitting and very cool and good. I thought the Dune 2016 soundtrack was terrific, but he really outdid himself on this one. It's a lot of nice ambient work, too, between the fights. And yeah, I'm not sure why people, like, unless Doom has a pretty huge legacy, obviously. That should go without saying. There's going to be people who have played these games for 20 years. The higher difficulties are there for that reason. Like, I've seen some reviewers conflating the average player with playing like Nightmare or Ultraviolence, and it's like, even on 2016 that's really fucking tough. Like, it's really hard. But I will say, I've seen gameplay on the lower difficulties. I've tried it a little bit too, and they really kept it consistent. Like, the combat loop and the challenge level feels really good. It's just you just are able to make a few more mistakes. It's just a little slower. So you really can train yourself. You can go through it once on a lower difficulty and then be ready for the next time around. I will say Nightmare, up until the last 2 levels, was totally manageable for me. But they kind of do some bullshit at the end. Like, the last level, I think every enemy has like a 20% speed ramp on them. And it's like, okay, now I feel like I have to use the BFG. But yeah, pretty fucking cool. I'm having a blast with it.
I have it. I've been playing it. I am enjoying it. I'm not a huge shooter person either, but I like it. It's fun. Especially now, in this time we're living in, right?
Yeah, you got to prepare any way you can. As we know, first-person shooters are analogous to real-life shooting skill and real-time aggression and violence. So you can really build that up. That's been proven time and time again. We know that scientifically.
So I'm ready. I'm ready.
Here we are. We're still here. We're still stuck inside. In an odd coincidence, the latest Animal Crossing entry was released on the same day as Doom Eternal. It's really odd, the crossover, just obviously because of how tonally different the two are and how polar opposite they are in gameplay. but of being very similar quality and really living up to hype. People are loving both of these games in an odd twist in a day where it seems like most AAA publishers are trying to outdo themselves in a trend lately to just completely destroy their reputation as fast as possible. Luke can speak more to New Horizons.
It's good.
Yeah.
Nice. Well said.
Yeah, no, coming from someone who's a longtime fan of the series, playing it all the way back on the GameCube when I was a kid, it feels so refined. It feels like the ultimate version of the game, like what they've been moving towards forever. Like everything is streamlined, everything looks better than ever. It's so charming. And I think the biggest thing the two games have in common, beyond the polish, beyond living up to everybody's expectations, is that they're both so unique. Like they both bring such an interesting character to the table. Like Doom is so loud and in your face, and Animal Crossing is so chill and it's got the best vibes. And like legit, I haven't even been playing, but I just leave it on while I'm at work so I can hear the waves or like watch the clouds or whatever. Like it's like a screensaver almost. Like it's so picturesque and serene. So they're both polar opposites for sure, and they have made some of the spiciest memes
I was going to say,
quite a while.
Some of the memes that have come out of these two games, which I think we'll probably see for a long time coming, really powerful stuff. I love some of the videos people have been making with Doom Guy and Isabel.
And not to like go down a rabbit hole or anything or divert.
Oh, please do. I've been in a rabbit hole for weeks.
What I find really interesting, because apart from PC gaming, I would definitely say I'm a Nintendo fan, and that's pretty much all the console gaming that I do. It's really interesting to watch the community reception of Animal Crossing versus the last Pokemon game, because like the last Pokemon game really had an awful launch, and like half the community was furious about it. They had that really awful autosave bug in the first week where it basically would just overwrite your entire memory card. Like it was a really, really rough, bad release for a huge franchise. And then on the flip side, Animal Crossing is like, take your time, come out when you're ready. We're here waiting for you. Pokemon, it was like, hit Christmas or else everyone dies, and
that's how you fucked up too. It's like when you have saves, that's like the hallmark of a shit release is if your saves, like your save files, are corrupting your goddamn hard drive or system. Like it's like Fallout 76 level failure.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's the thing. It's like I made a little meme 2 podcasts ago in our part 1 about Doom Eternal not being released and being sad, but ultimately if it allowed them to make a better product, then I don't think anyone's gonna bitch.
Right.
Like, people are loving the campaign, so at the end of the day,
worth it. But I think ultimately that's the thing, like when someone earns that trust, when someone says, hey, wait, and we're going to take a little bit longer, but it's going to be better for it. That's an amazing thing when the fans of that will just say, okay. Like with Animal Crossing, like when they delayed it, I'm sure there were people that were disappointed, but the majority of the reaction was, all right. Like I saw this meme a while back around when Pokemon was coming out. I think it was that SpongeBob one, actually. Do you remember when he's like doing the fry cook games against like was it Neptune or something? And there's like the pyramid of burgers and SpongeBob's making just the one perfect one. And like the Pokemon was the pyramid and the one perfect one was Animal Crossing. It's like, take your time. And it's so true. It's like there's so much. I mean, Pokemon is not a yearly franchise, but they're like Call of Dutying it. You know what I mean? Or like whatever, insert yearly franchise.
Yeah, well, yeah, God, at this point, it's they've Call of Duty it, they've Assassin's Creeded it.
Whereas, like, I think the last console-based Animal Crossing game, I think, was like 7 years ago, something like that. Like it was, I think we were still in college when that came out, so it's probably longer, but we don't have to worry about that. So yeah, overall, I'm very happy with it, and it's also, in this time, it's very interesting to like hang out with people in that game. Like I feel like it just came out at the perfect time.
Yeah, this is the perfect experiment for a Black Mirror reality.
Yeah.
I will say I do have a little bit of narrative blue balls in Doom Eternal. This might be spoilers, I don't know, but skip 30 seconds ahead if you don't want to hear this. This game and all the preview material leading towards it, like you're constantly seeing these giant titans, and you're getting all these mechs everywhere, and there's a mech in your fortress that you go to every time you finish a level, to regroup and all that, and you never fucking take a mech out. You never actually get in a mech. Now that could just be me, but it's like, dude, I was like waiting for the icon of Sin to pop out, and you just get in a mech and start beating the shit out of it. At least for one stage, like a 2-tier boss, like you get pummeled out of your mech after a while, and then you got to be on foot and take care of the rest. But the final boss fight is a little underwhelming. It feels like your basic, I'm a big guy, kind of boss. That was literally the only thing I could say that let me down a little bit in terms of content. Moving right along, just before the world ended and the nuke was dropped on New York, we did get a chance to go to the theaters to see Sonic the Hedgehog on like a Sunday or two. Was it during the week? Like a really weird night and time where nobody was in the theater, but maybe 2 other people. And we proceeded to watch it in the theater.
Is that what you did?
Well, yeah, and that was a experience. Sonic the Hedgehog. The only movie we saw in a theater in 2020 so far.
That's not true.
Was it?
It's not true for me anyway.
Well, it's true for me. I'm a much sadder man.
I saw the Gentleman movie with Matthew McConaughey. I saw Rise of Skywalker. There's definitely something else. Whatever. Doesn't matter. None of this matters.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. Outside is gone. There is no more outside. It's gone. So it doesn't. None of it matters.
It's gone forever.
Yeah, Sonic the Hedgehog. We did see that. What the fuck?
Yeah.
What a. I mean, I'm really struggling to get my thoughts together on this because it really wasn't a bad movie per se. It's just not at all something that I'd be into, I guess. I don't know if it's just my bias or if structurally it's just not that good, because there definitely are some interesting things about it. Like, it has some moments. There are things about it that are technically good. But man, it's just so weird in an off-putting way that I couldn't like quite put my finger on. It really wants to be Marvel too. Like, there is so much Marvel-esque stuff in here. Like, I don't know if this was a meme, but Sega's got this Marvel title drop in the beginning, which is so surreal.
It almost feels like they took an After Effects template and just put their own stuff in it. Here's the thing, and this would be an interesting, like, just social experiment. Make a cringy YouTube channel, pretend to be like an 11-year-old, and upload that intro in the beginning of your Sonic Adventure 2 Let's Plays. And I guarantee you people would think that kid made that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that's the first thing you're presented with, and it's very strange. And then it just gets more strange.
Yeah, I'll try to avoid spoilers per se. I don't want to do a whole plot
Yeah,
dump.
we don't want to ruin Sonic the Hedgehog.
I wouldn't want to spoil the incredible adventure that you're in for, but
would you say it was a Sonic Adventure director's cut? That's the name of the GameCube version.
Oh, yeah? That's I swear to God, I didn't know that. That's amazing, Lou. Bizarrely, it really tries to establish a backstory for Sonic. Like, the first 10 minutes of it are it's this bizarre rendering of what looks like, the Green Zone. Green Hill Zone.
Dude, we'll get burned in the comments if you get
Green
this shit
Hills
wrong.
So
that Wonder Woman guy's gonna come back.
You know what I mean, okay? I missed one word, Jesus. I see it all the time. Green Hill Zone. Meaning, like, it's some kind of a planet of his? Like, they're swinging it like he's an alien, and he has to escape through a Rang portal.
Let's get this straight. Literally nothing in that movie made sense.
No, but
However, comma, I did find it weirdly enjoyable. What did you think of it, Glenn?
I did not see it.
Oh, okay.
the humor in the movie I remember being particularly egregious.
Oh yeah.
There were some fun visual gags, but in general, the referential humor in this movie is just awful. I mean, we're talking referencing Fortnite and Amazon delivery level humor.
Yeah.
It's bad.
The Olive Garden stuff was really... I think this movie is one of the guiltiest I've ever seen of product placement, just like rampant product placement in every single scene.
Yeah, we're talking Sony Pictures level product placement. I mean, yeah, Olive Garden is joked about like in a positive way of all things. Like,
and there's like a whole scene devoted to discussing Olive Garden.
like out of nowhere, it's like, "Mommy, I want to go Olive Garden. Sonic likes Olive Garden."
It's so tonally inconsistent with what precedes it too. Like we're not trying to spoil this.
Yeah, well, I'll say this much: the consolation prize from the U.S. government to one of the characters is an Olive Garden gift card.
We'll have to verify if that's true. Soldiers come back and they just get Olive Garden gift cards. Here's the thing: like in the same way, I didn't hate Detective Pikachu because of how just batshit and bizarre it was. That's how I feel about this one. Like it didn't make sense. They took this property and did whatever the hell they wanted with it, and just it's like, hey, look, it's Sonic, it's the name brand, you know, like it makes no sense. But there's still enough dumb shit in it that made me laugh. You know, like the Sonic meme. I cannot believe the Sonic meme was in that movie. And this is also one of those movies, too, where it's like you ask a single question and the entire story falls apart. I would be most curious to know what, like, those diehard Sonic fans feel about this movie. You know, like, is it the best thing ever, or is it, I do. I really do.
I don't know if anyone wants to know what they think about anything. They might be too busy looking at his feet.
Weren't his feet in the movie?
Sonic's feet do make an appearance in the movie, very briefly.
Yeah,
but
enough to nut to.
Because I know they had to give him his signature sneakers, so they find a way. Throughout the movie, they find a way to build him like a Build-A-Bear. They build up his iconic look. For that to happen, his actual shoesies have to come off. And
I read somewhere that canonically Sonic's shoes are Puma brand. So
who the hell's confirming that?
I don't remember where I read it, but I'll find it this way. We can put it on screen now. But I do remember reading that somewhere that like canonically his shoes, they used to be a different brand called Soap. If you play Sonic Adventure 2, there's like all kinds of billboards for Soap. And then, like, at some point, Lovo, you know, when he was running the shop, he was like, you know, Soap's a real brand, right? Like, they got the actual Sonic shoes. I was like, what?
Damn.
They're, like, mad expensive. But, yeah, now they're Pumas.
Oh, wow.
Do they make you go fast?
Yes. Of course. What? I mean...
He does say, gotta go fast. At least once in the movie.
Yeah. Jim Carrey was very good.
I can't imagine this movie without Jim Carrey in it. I can't.
Yeah.
I don't know if it had to be him specifically. Like, if they couldn't get him, some other, you know, physical comedian of that caliber. But I can't. Can you imagine if they hadn't gotten him? Can you imagine this movie? I think it would cross into the unwatchable. Because
I think the only other person who really could have done it is Jake Gyllenhaal. Because he's just that right flavor of crazy that I think could pull it off. But yeah, Jim Carrey was perfect. Like, he was just so manic.
And I just want to clarify, I'm not saying the movie was saved by Dr. Robotnik. I'm saying the movie was saved by Jim Carrey. He's just Jim Carreying up the fucking place. That's all he's doing.
He just showed up and he was himself. If I later in life found out that Jim Carrey was making egg-shaped robots, like, would not be shocked.
Yeah, I mean, at one point in this movie, he does release his little egg drones, and that's the point where, can you believe Amazon's going to be delivering with these? Whoa!
Yeah,
Let's take a second to discuss Sonic's voice actor, because
it
was
annoying.
really bad. Like, I know Sonic isn't
Yeah.
like... I just feel so stupid analyzing this sometimes, because we're talking about a fucking Sonic the Hedgehog movie. And because, like, what the fuck caliber am I really comparing this to? The video games are
Yeah.
far from the highest standard of storytelling and voice acting.
Whoa.
Whoa.
Yeah, at
Whoa.
me, please. Go right the fuck ahead.
Sonic Adventure 2 is a fun game, and it's moderate to terrible voice acting and a pretty bad story.
So I can't even really say it's not on brand or anything. Like,
Can I tell you that if I called Lovo on the phone right now and started saying Sonic dialogue at him without skipping a beat, he would know the line and say it back to me?
can you do it right now?
Okay.
Or is he dead from Corona?
It's got coroned.
He's not dead from Corona. I found you, you fake hedgehog.
Found you fake. Fake? Who are you calling fake? You're not even,
Lovo, what a champion. What a champion.
Dude, there was a time in our lives where Lovo and I could, like, do the dialogue for that entire game. Like, without skipping a beat.
Well, anyway, the only reason I bring it up is because it does seem stupid to critique it given the pedigree of the series anyway, but, like, at the same time, people who are just watching the movie, God, his voice is so fucking irritating. Could they have not gotten a more tolerable Sonic voice?
Well, his voice has always kind of been that, like, well, you know, but I am unironically a fan of Sonic. Let me give that a little note there. Anything after Sonic 06 is really awful.
Okay.
And the people make the franchise really cringe. But in terms of platforming and going fast, and you know, it's a fun series that is, you know, it has a cult following for a reason, I guess.
Sure. No, and that's the thing. Absolutely. The game itself. However, one would also question, is this the right property for a motion picture? Probably not. Probably not. Then again, you could make the argument, do video game properties make good movies at all? And by and large, they don't. I don't think this is actually an example of that, because it's okay. It's not like the Max Payne film, for example, which, I mean, you have to be some special quality of filmmaker to be able to make a Max Payne film that requires no time spent shooting dudes in slow motion. Really impressive stuff. Because what is Max Payne? Its source material is based entirely on John Woo's filmography, okay? Take Hard Boiled and copy that Max Payne movie. That's all you had to do. You can't underestimate video game movies half the time. And when something like this comes out where it's at least okay, you know, I got to give it a point or two. Because you could watch the movie just for Jim Carrey's scenes. Because he's legitimately really good.
To me, it's a movie to watch, like, having a few beers with the boys. You know what I mean? Like, it's a joke. It's not something you're going to be, like, super invested in, but it's like, good enough to get a couple of laughs. And some of the visual effects are pretty damn good, all things considered.
Again, it's, you know, video games, so you got to give it some artistic license in that. They're not really going for realism per se. In fact, when they do strive for realism, that's when it tends to be not that great. I would still say Detective Pikachu, and if we're comparing the two, it's a good comparison. That does make sense.
Yeah.
I think I would still give it to Detective Pikachu. I think the scenarios were a lot more entertaining. The story in this was...
Well, it didn't make any sense. I mean, that's the truth of it. Pokemon goes crazy like 15 minutes at the end, but this one kind of has that crazy energy for the entire time.
Right, and I guess we'll get into spoilers now, because to get any more deeper into this, I think we do really have to discuss a few plot points. So spoilers from, you know, here on in. The story is essentially a road movie. It's like a buddy road movie with a hedgehog that can run at seemingly the speed of light.
I believe canonically he's faster than the speed of light. Or the speed
Well, there
of
is a
sound.
montage within the film itself of him playing ping pong with himself.
Yeah.
It's like you can't even see the frames in between him moving. That already
Yeah,
shows right there
yeah.
he could be wherever he wants, whenever he wants. I mean, he's Sonic. You go in knowing that. However, he was tranquilized in the beginning because the dude is a
Right.
vet. Oh no, the wife is a vet. The most unnatural movie couple, and not just because they're interracial. They have zero on-screen chemistry, and it took me a while to believe. Wait, are they married? What?
They're rarely even on screen together.
She's the vet that kind of tries to figure out. She thinks that he's like a hedgehog, like an animal or something, and they're trying to autopsy him or something. Like,
He's like the size of a small child.
yeah, it's like. But the whole crux of the story is that he's a cop in Green Hills. That's also coincidentally the name of the fucking town on Earth that he teleports to. Wait, we forgot we were discussing the intro. That weird ass intro where it's in Green Hill Zone on
the
another
owl.
planet or dimension or whatever. And then there's this owl matriarch, not really his mom or just a guardian, gives this tear.
The rings.
He gives him his sack of rings, which also act as teleporters. I guess. I mean, Sonic 06, they were teleporters.
Doctor
right?
Strange teleporters.
And she gives him this teary-eyed goodbye farewell speech that you've gotta
never stop running.
I swear to God, it's like a Shyamalan could have written this movie. So he escapes to Earth of all places.
But wait. This is important for the Sonic fans that are listening to this. They get attacked by echidnas. And they're all tribal paint, so Takal's people from Sonic Adventure, the first one. And that's kind of fucked up, because the echidnas are good guys now. So they're also being yo, all echidnas are bad.
I mean, for all intents and purposes, this seems like kind of an origin story. So maybe that's something that will be set up later. I don't know. Anyway, he escapes.
I'm expecting that to be fixed.
The owl gets Bambied. Bambi mommed.
Oh, yeah.
And
I forgot about that.
and then he escapes to Earth, and he's super lonely. He just wants a friend because there's no one like him to talk, and it's very cringy. The parallels. Let's face it. If you are, if you're like me, if you're a dangerous loner and you're stuck inside all the time and you have no friends, this movie's very relatable to you. Sonic has no friends. He can't see anybody because he's a freaky alien. And then the cop protagonist wants to escape his little, Green Hills, coincidentally named, by the way, on Earth. He wants to leave his small town and go to San Francisco and be a beat cop in the big city. And so there's this conflict between when they finally meet each other, what? You want to leave your home I had to leave my home. How could you want to leave where you are? And that's basically the crux of the story arc between the two. And he has to take him. Why does he have to take him to the Empire State Building exactly? Is that where he dropped his rings?
It's San Francisco, which is a staple in the Sonic series. It was there. That was one of the main places in Sonic Adventure, too. I forgot when he gets tranquilized. He drops the ring because he's about to teleport off Earth, and then
he saw his shirt. That's right. He saw his shirt. It had a picture of a building in the skyline.
But he drops the bag of rings through the ring, and it lands on a building in San Francisco.
It's probably a really famous building, too, and I just don't remember, because this movie was insanity.
Sounds amazing.
Should have seen it.
Yeah, so he's tranquilized, and he can't run no mo. So he has to drive him across the country.
Well, that's actually not accurate, because on the side of the road, when he kicks Sonic out of the car, Sonic runs all the way to the Pacific Ocean and back in the span of a second, and then he goes, I don't know where San Francisco is.
They drive down the road, and his abilities are back. He's already been shown to make referential humor and understand technology to the extent he could probably have a GPS. Just give him a GPS and go. Doesn't make any fucking
Well,
sense.
that was the most annoying thing, though, was that the movie was very inconsistent with what he knew and didn't. Because he wasn't familiar with what a bucket list was, and yet he's making Amazon jokes, like Keith said. And
dude, homie makes a ZZ Top cover band reference, and then is mystified by the concept of a bucket list. They bond over the bucket list, like they want to check shit off before he has to leave Earth.
That was a cute scene, though, I'm not gonna lie. It was stupid, but it was cute. And he ate the chili dogs.
And that's the thing, there really weren't that many, interesting set piece stuff. They had their big CGI battles occasionally, but there wasn't, the whole, I guess, John Hughes-esque humor where, Sonic's lost in the shopping mall, we gotta go find They have a scene where they get separated and Sonic is amazed by this biker bar. The most ethnically diverse biker bar you'll ever see. Literally everyone in the world is in this biker bar. It's so weird. It's the place to be. And I guess because motorcycles go fast or they're loud, he was enamored with this, even though he could go way faster than any motorized vehicle. But whatever. That they spend a good chunk of the movie in that bar, and there's your first Quicksilver scene in there.
Yeah.
Which I guess you knew was coming.
It's the Quicksilver scene from X-Men Days of Future Past.
So I guess it's not technically Marvel, but it's Marvel adjacent. They have a few of these Quicksilver slow motion sequences where he's going around fucking with people, and the first one in the bar is really not that good at all. It doesn't really make a lot of sense. And then there's another one which involves him in an action scene where he's doing it, and it's better. I don't know. When they're out of ideas, I guess they just break into song and dance, or they'll have some sort of extended musical choreographed scene. There's the one that comes to mind is when Jim Carrey or Dr. Robotnik is in his truck getting stuff ready to analyze his little blue quill. It's basically just him doing science to this music. It just seems like there's a lot of time spent on stuff that doesn't really seem to matter, and less time on coming up with clever things and clever places for Sonic to be in.
Yeah.
But I will say it wasn't very long either. It really flew by. The runtime was not egregious.
Yeah, no, it was fine.
It was fine.
So would you see it, Glenn?
If it's on cable TV.
Wow. That was the most boomer thing you've ever said. If it's on cable.
It's on my channels.
I'm trying to catch up on my stories.
Oh, I got nothing else to do, so.
I'm surprised that it's not already on Amazon, or streaming or something.
Yeah.
I'm going to tentatively recommend it if you're into the property, but I don't think you really need anybody to recommend it if you're into the property of Sonic. I think before we close, we do kind of have to discuss the whole CGI debacle, where
it's not true.
Yes,
it's a lie.
Everybody on the internet leading up to this was triggered by the way Sonic looks, and I get it. It's fucking nightmare fuel. Don't get me wrong, but that kicked off a whole discussion about, well, now that they've actually surrendered to the fan base and they went in and changed all of the assets to look better or more pleasing to the fan base, more like the original Sonic character. First of all, was it all one big fucking conspiracy by the filmmakers just for tips and ad? Just as one big promotional piece.
It promoted itself, and everyone was like, "Wow, they're heroes. They listen to their fan base."
Yeah.
No, they didn't. It wasn't real. There's no way. And then the studio who did the animation, wow, they just closed down right after they were done. That's so interesting.
I'm not going to say it's impossible that they would have a fake trailer, but I just got to say, I don't think they're smart enough to come up with that kind of a PR scheme, and especially if you're talking about it in a boardroom, which, let's face it, this would have to be a calculated move. I don't think anyone would hedge their bets on it.
I don't know. I feel like outrage marketing is the most powerful tool right now. I feel like everybody knows how powerful that is. To get one thing to blow up on Twitter, and then you see all these stupid articles. When that shit happened, there were articles, there were YouTube videos, there were Twitter posts, there were memes. That shit went viral, and that just happens. Look at cats. You know, Cats went. I don't think they intended it, but Cats went completely viral because it was just pure nightmare fuel. It was just the ugliest shit I've ever seen. And that's why when people are like, "Oh, Sonic looked bad," it's like, did you see the final product of Cats? Like, because that still looks worse than the old Sonic. And frankly, I think the original Sonic design would only serve to make this movie funnier and more insane.
I certainly prefer to look at the Sonic that was in the movie than the one that was in the trailer. Did it make the movie better? No. That's the thing. I mean, does it really make the movie any better or worse?
It's the script.
No, it's going to be the same movie regardless. But further to the point that they redid all the effects in the movie, I think what people are thinking is that, okay, the entire movie was done and printed and ready to ship, and then they went back and redid every single effect. That's not necessarily what could have happened. I mean, the movie doesn't necessarily have to be completely done to show the trailer. So there could have been less work involved in it. But I also don't really believe that they were smart enough to make a fake trailer and dupe everybody and then pretend that they were heroes. I think legitimately this time say, okay, look, we'll change the design.
This thing looks like a monster. We want to sell toys of him.
And the thing is, I don't know how much extra PR you really need for a Sonic movie. If you just made it look good from the outset, what would the benefit be?
I mean, if we're getting down to that, I don't see the point of a Sonic the Hedgehog movie.
What? Yeah, okay, duh. I don't either. But no, I don't the point is it sells itself. Like you show Sonic in a movie, and it's like, okay, that's good enough. I don't think they have to make it look like they're saving their careers and integrity on the fucking Sonic the Hedgehog movie. And now this kicks off a different conversation where, okay, now a studio has definitely capitulated to the fans, and they now have essentially input into what the studio is going to do. Sonic may not be the best vehicle for this conversation, since I think Sonic is a little bit more product and less art. But let's just say, hey, this was my vision for the film, and now it's been overridden by consumer demand. What does that mean?
Right. Because now this is just a case, like the next DC movie that comes out and, Joker doesn't look right. And they'd be like, well, Sonic redid theirs,
Right.
I mean, even Cats, there was articles saying that after I think it was the first screenings or something like that they redid parts of Cats to make it look less horrific,
Yeah, now movies are going to have to get patch notes.
Made Cats less horrific.
Cats version 1.01.
Kids are now having 15% less nightmares.
Because look, people shit on George Lucas for the very same thing. Every iteration, every home release of Star Wars is markedly different, all by his design.
And it's made worse.
Yeah, and as far as the fans are concerned, they'd be fine with his original quote-unquote broken vision. But now, because the fans quote-unquote have a say in it, it's okay. It's an interesting conversation, and I think it depends on the content and depends on the studio. If you want to hold to your guns and say, no, this is it, I think they are very much in their rights to do that, and people either like it or they don't. However, if it's something like this that, is legitimately impacting the enjoyment of your fan base, and you see them vocalize, and it's the creator's decision, not necessarily the producers or the studio's demand, I think that's okay. I think that's actually that's okay as well. And let's face it, it's not, no matter what dressing you put on it, a turd is a turd, and a golden nugget is a golden nugget. It's not really fundamentally going to change the entire movie, like visual effects, but we're talking like expanding the focus testing to Twitter. That's when it starts to become shitty, because focus testing has been ruining movies for years, let alone getting the goddamn internet involved. What do you think, Glenn?
Hey, yep.
Feel free to jump in at any time.
You're on a roll, man. Let you go.
Well, guys, I gotta tell you, I'm all tuckered out from all that high-speed action. So why don't we slow things down a little bit? And I'm talking to like a grinding halt.
Yes, we should go right into our next film, which we've seen post-quarantine, because now that Governor Cuomo has sealed me into my house here, I can't leave. I've been welded in like the fine citizens of Wuhan.
Whoa. Too soon.
This is the most demonetized video on this channel.
Coronavirus, Wuhan, pandemic, quarantine, demonetized. Okay, now that we've gotten that demonetization out of the way,
Community guideline strike.
immediate YouTube deletion because YouTube's response to the the pandemic and the quarantine was, oh, by the way, I know a lot of you are working from home, but we're just not going to do that. We're just going to use this as an excuse to let the algorithm completely level our platform. Enjoy.
To be fair, the algorithm's been doing whatever for years anyway. But
Yeah, but now they're not even like, they're saying, oh, there's just, don't expect any human intervention.
yeah, they were like, expect more videos to get deleted. Like, okay.
Like, thanks, cunt. Anyway.
Speaking of cunts, Invisible Man.
A lot of these studios have been generous enough to release the films we would have seen in the theaters right here into our homes on Amazon, YouTube, and the like. And one of the ones that we decided to spend our time with was Hollow Man 3. Oh, I mean, I'm sorry. The Invisible Man. Invisible Man 2020.
Before we get too into Invisible Man, I do think it's interesting to note this trend now that movies are getting released due to the circumstances. And I'm really curious to see if long-term, if this is going to ripple the way movies are consumed. Like if studios are going to realize like, wow, we can digitally distribute this and get way higher numbers for opening weekends for people who don't want to leave their house, people who don't live close to theaters, people who just don't like going to theaters. Like, I'd be really curious to see how this is going to ripple the industry.
Yeah, it's funny to think that it took a pandemic to really kick it off, but it's probably close to inevitable.
Right.
A lot of the theaters that you see now are really catering to smaller audience sizes and capacities. Like they're putting more into the comfort of the seats now, as opposed to how many people they could shove in the theater.
Which, hey, good. I mean, I hate going to packed movies, so...
Sure. I mean, there's an argument to be had there, and there's also an argument to be had when they start to close theaters down because they're just not putting as many asses in the seats. Most people are streaming.
Yeah, I'd be interested if that starts becoming the norm, when they realize, from my background working in blank TV place, like that was how ratings would work, is that the initial premiere would happen, right? Like, let's say it premieres Thursday night at 8 p.m. And then all of the video on demand numbers go into that initial premiere. So let's say, make numbers easy right now, 100,000 people watched it at 8 p.m. when it was premiering. But then over the next 3 days, 100,000 more people watch it on demand. They could say that their numbers for that premiere was 200,000 because of the video on demand. So I wouldn't be shocked if it works the same way with box office, where they say, hey, we made $100 million in ticket sales plus another $100 million from people who are watching it at home. So our opening weekend was $200 million, not 100. So it is interesting to see like how that would influence the industry.
Because it also comes into the question of format too. It's like, look, obviously some films are going to be more impactful in the theater, and some it doesn't really matter. Like, I don't think you necessarily need to see the average comedy film in the theater if you don't want to. Whereas something like Interstellar, which is made by its format, which is, essentially IMAX. God, what's a fucking 80 millimeter ridiculous?
The 70s.
70 mil, like ridiculous film stock. Like, let's face it, even bringing that to Blu-ray, there's going to be some compromises to the quality. And that is a case that you could make to say, well, this is a film for theaters, So if the picture warrants it, then I think a simultaneous release makes sense, because you'd have benefits to either one. This film that we're about to discuss, The Invisible Man, doesn't really have any benefit of anything anywhere. I think this looks like it could have been just released on YouTube because it looks so shitty.
I will say, before we say that, though, we did watch it on Amazon Prime, and I don't know if that compression completely killed it. But that said, there is just a ton of examples where like the lighting just looks so like flat and like boring and basic. Like I hate to really like pick something apart like that, but it looked so amateurish.
I mean, even in terms of the lighting, like just the contrast and the picture quality. I mean, I understand maybe this was a bad transfer. Maybe it was hastily done and put on streaming. So I'd like to see a release one day just for comparison, like a couple frames. I don't want to watch this goddamn movie again, but like, I
Because
also
going back to Sonic, that's not going to fix the story.
yeah, no, it's not going to fix the content. But the only thing I can think of with this movie is that they were going for a very independent lo-fi look and trying to tell a small story with a property that is typically grandiose. And kudos to them for trying that, I guess. Unfortunately, what we got was a literal Me Too allegory. Swear to God, the horror of this film seems to tastelessly come from triggering a fear response in rape and sexual assault victims. That's basically all the tension you can derive from this movie, because I found it to be tensionless from start to finish.
Well, I think this movie kind of suffers from a similar issue that A Quiet Place did. A Quiet Place, in the first couple of minutes of the movie, you see the creature, you know what it's capable of. And that removes a lot of the tension, because now for the whole movie, you know what it looks like. You know what's coming. Like, in the first Alien movie, you don't really get a good look at it until the very end. And the whole time you're like, what the fuck is that thing? What is it? It drives your interest and your fear of it because your mind is filling in the blanks. And it's the same thing in this movie. Like, right out of the gate, you know that this dude is a bad, bad man. And right out of the gate, even if you saw a trailer.
Quick caveat there. Assumed.
Right.
Assumed to be a bad guy. We'll get into plot details later, but that is pretty crucial from the start.
Right. They don't make it a secret, right? Like they make it pretty obvious that you're meant to not think, oh wow, look at this guy, but at any rate, like, right away who the protagonist is, right away who the enemy is, right away that he's not dead, all these things, like, just straight from the trailer. It's just very, like, simple, straightforward, like, this is good, this is bad, like,
he's the Invisible Man.
Yeah, exactly. That alone right there is the whole, like, for anyone who could even pretend to say, oh, he died, like, if you want to even try to lie to yourself for the sake of the story, the name of the movie is The Invisible Man. Like, he's there right from the start. So that's why I'm comparing it to A Quiet Place. Like, I think that movie could have been much more effective overall if the viewer felt like it was a questionable narrative and you didn't know whether to believe this woman or not. Like, you were just like, is she going crazy or not? Like, and that would have that simple change of not revealing that he was still alive or invisible for the duration of the movie until, like, close to the third act would have been the thing that would have made that movie much more interesting.
Yes, that's not that. I mean, that could certainly help. The other thing too is that this is very odd that this is happening at all by Universal, considering just how much of a failure the Tom Cruise Mummy thing was in their kickstart of the dark universe, quote unquote, because everything's got to have a cinematic universe now.
Yeah, and I said that at the start when we were watching this movie as a joke. Like, I made it like, am I going to understand it? But after watching it, are we sure it's even a part of it?
They didn't actually put the dark universe labeling anywhere. I guess they're probably just using the property.
Right. Yeah.
Well, because to my understanding, and again, I didn't see Mummy, so I don't know, but apparently Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde was in it, and he was, like, creating a team, a Suicide Squad.
I believe you're correct on that.
Yeah. So when I hear that it's a part of that universe, I assume the Invisible Man is going to get recruited into said team. But it seems as though now that's fake news, and it's just the dark universe, monster universe, whatever you want to call it, is just a series of monster horror movies.
I understand the direction. They're trying to make it a smaller personal story. I don't think that's going to work for this. When you take some scientist who's this brilliant and developed an invisible suit, and then the story is, I'm just going to microaggression my ex-girlfriend. It seems really fucking stupid. Now, that's not the whole movie. It starts out with microaggressions. It turns into macro and full-on violent aggressions later.
Brendan, there's nothing passive about your aggression. It's active.
I mean, what does he do? I mean, he burns her eggs.
And then he like punches the girl in the face.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I won't quote Anchorman here, but you know what I'm saying.
Wait, what?
That escalated really quickly.
Oh, yeah.
Outside of the story, just technically speaking, it is... Oh, God, it is so boring. I mean, it looks so boring. It's so flat.
You know what? Flat and clinical. Like, it's very, like, it looks economic. Like, it looks like shot, reverse shot. Okay, we're done for the day. You know, like, it looks very, like, just get the shots. You know, they probably had, like, 2 or 3 cameras on everyone. Like, that opening shot where they're in the house and the 3 of them are talking in the morning, like before shit's really going down and all. It's like the first 15 minutes of the movie. Like that one just screamed like there's 3 cameras, we're just cutting back and forth, that's it, no creative, nothing, don't move, you know, lock the camera on sticks, don't have the actors move. Like it just felt so like low budget
and lazy.
Yes,
we already know what's going on. You can't develop tension. We know he's invisible, we know he's in the room. There is a sequence where they do the terrible CGI breath thing, doing her breath, and then you see a phantom breath next to you. It's like, I know you're going to do that. I see the copy-pasted breath asset. I know you're going to put it in there once to spook me, I guess. Granted, it's more subtle than a jump scare. Ooh.
But wasn't it still accompanied by a weird audio stinger?
No.
Oh, I thought it was.
I don't believe so. It was just a breath. And then that's it. He doesn't have to breathe anymore. He doesn't have to fart. He doesn't have to cough or sneeze. His footsteps don't make sense. He's already there. What's the fucking tension? I mean, yeah. Glenn, well, I know you didn't see the movie.
I did see this movie.
What? Glenn, you saw the movie?
I did. We watched it together.
The nailed it rug has been pulled up. The deep tapestry.
Wow.
Wow.
That's more amazing than anything in the film that you saw.
Yeah, no, it probably is. You're right.
Should we say spoilers? Let's go into spoilers. Fuck it.
I feel like we've spoiled things already.
Yeah, little things like here and there. But look, if you really want to see this fucking movie, it's on Amazon.
$20.
Yeah, that's whatever.
Basically $20, $18.
Why did you get $18?
Yeah, I didn't understand that. It was $19.99.
Maybe I'm whiter than you.
Why did you get it?
Maybe I'm whiter. I don't know. What do you want me to tell you?
How did you do that?
Anyway,
that bothers me.
I hate to say it. I don't think they should have even bothered. Like, you're just going to compare it to Hollow Man, which, let's face it, that's not perfect either. It's definitely a campy kind of sci-fi action movie that becomes a slasher at the end. But at least that has some fucking character. It looks great. The effects are awesome. They do so many creative things, being physically invisible, not just crawling into an Iron Man suit or a Crisis suit. And he was already eccentric and bizarre at the beginning as a scientist. To see how that affects him and how he becomes a fucking monster is so much more interesting.
Bad guy.
Glenn, don't spoil it. It's not like this film managed to be both predictable and insulting to your intelligence at the same time.
That's kind of the issue too, is like they never really come right out and say that this rich dude is actually the bad guy.
You never in any scene actually see anything outside of one sequence when she's escaping. He Iron Mans his fist through the fucking car window, which...
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
I don't know where this guy's superhuman strength comes from, but fair enough. That was a little sketchy. So obviously I'm assuming he's supposed to be a bad guy, but in literal terms, you never really see anything or hear anything outside of her testimony. It felt to me by the end of it, especially with the music and her annoying little smirk, that we were supposed to be celebrating for her combating her oppressor and that she was the good guy in the story when she actually straight up, for all intensive purposes, murders the dude.
Yeah, I mean, but that's kind of what I was getting at, is that the movie's just very plain with you like this person, you hate this person, and they do very little in the way to establish the feeling for either. Like, by the end of the movie, I was just very neutral on both of them. Like, I didn't really, like, it felt like I didn't have any skin in the game. Like, I didn't feel good when she killed him. I didn't feel good when he died. I didn't care. Like, it was just, like, you did nothing to make me feel either way. And that, to me, is, like, the worst crime a movie can commit. Is, like, failing to elicit any emotional response.
I never felt like it was invested at any point. Nothing made sense. Everything just felt inconsequential. Like, who is she again? Why is she... Well, they're not even fucking married. They're just they're just BF and GF. She escapes to, this black guy in his daughter's house, who... He was, like, the best part of the movie.
Yeah.
Even though he really... Like, he was the most...
He was barely in it.
He's a cop, too. Should make mention.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
He's the cop, and he's... I guess he's a friend? I don't know.
I guess so.
You know what? Me saying he's barely in it is not fair, but he disappears for like an hour.
Yes, yeah, but he does technically have a crucial role in the story. But
he's heavy in the
gap.
beginning and the end, but Act 2, he's like almost non-existent. They like forgot about him.
It's pretty bad casting overall. Nobody looks right. Like, I mean, her makeup on hers, she looks enough like an abuse victim, I guess. But everyone else is like, they just look like. There's barely any characters in it. They all look very Hollywood. Like, this guy looks like he's right out of a fashion magazine.
Yeah, he's a handsome dude.
But he's like the most, like, he has the most screen presence. And I'm not going to, the acting in general in this movie was really, really bad. But at least he had like a presence, he could carry a scene. Whereas everyone else, I just wanted to knock out.
Yeah, I was just bored.
Yeah,
I was just very bored. I think one of the big, like, apart from what I was saying about them revealing shit too quickly too, one of the other big things that they didn't really touch on is, like, how the hell the suit even worked. Like, did I miss that maybe?
No, I mean, look, I could get over that if it wasn't so crucial. I mean, the problem is, he's wearing this fucking suit, and yet at the same time, he can be pepper sprayed in it. We've seen that.
Right.
He's practically superhuman, but it just looks like...
Well, that's what I'm getting at. Like, they don't really establish rules for it. Like, he can kind of do anything in some scenes, but then pepper spray from a purse disables him in another. But then he still manages to hit her in the hallway, even though he was, like, taking a knee in the room.
Oh, yeah, there was so many fucking bizarre edits. I mean...
He got stabbed by that pen, like, 5 times in the fucking neck and chest, but then But he's fine and he's not really bleeding, and he runs and disables like 6 cops. But
there's a couple of shots in this movie that are reminiscent of, like, they do the motion tracking on the face thing at one point, which is obnoxious. There is that scene in the hospital that you mentioned where he's just like Neo from the Matrix, just pounding cops' ass, like pounding some serious cop ass.
Can we cut that, please?
It's choreographed and shot like
cool.
a scene from Upgrade.
It's the closest thing to a cool scene in the movie, but it makes no sense.
It is so tonally inconsistent. Like, it's so fucking boring. It's basically her staring in rooms after scene after scene after scene, and then you get this action sequence.
Dude, you know what it's like? I'm blanking on the name, but do you remember that movie where Scarlett Johansson unlocks, like, all the potential of her brain and she's, like, superhuman? Lucy. There's this scene where she, like, walks in and just nods, and all these security guards, like, just go unconscious because she's, like, so next level, like, superhuman. And that's kind of what it's like. It's like, this is just... And that's the thing, too. This is my issue with it. It's like... So he's a scientist, right?
Right.
Did they even talk about...
Well, he's an optics scientist. He's like a leader in his field or something. They said that.
They said that in the beginning, maybe?
Yeah.
It's clipped in the thing where he faked his death.
Okay.
Yeah, like optics researcher or whatever. I don't know.
So optics expert is also, like, well trained in martial arts and gunplay and like,
right.
It just,
if it's even him, I keep circling back to that.
that's fair. That's fair.
Or his brother's in on it too somehow, and he's just as capable.
Or his brother, it was his idea the whole time. We're not sure.
That's the issue. Yeah, it's almost like you have to pick which one you believe, type of thing.
I don't know. Maybe he was trying to be artistic there and leave a question in your mind. To me, it just seems lazy. I think ultimately what's supposed to happen is the two brothers were in on it together, and then he just threw him under the bus.
Yeah.
You know, either way, you got a fucking invisible. This fucking lady. Oh my god, she's got every opportunity, it seems, to prove that this is a thing by literally she just goes to his house long after he faked his death, goes to his house, finds the suit,
and leaves it there. She hides it in the closet.
Meanwhile, with a phone in her hand, able to record this shit. She could have at any point gotten, like, at least someone to say, hey, can you take a look at it? Hey, my Uber driver that drove me all the way out here, want to come and check this out?
Not to mention, like, cybersecurity. Don't you think this really intelligent scientist with a high-tech house would have changed the password after she ran away?
No, he's actually, what he's going to do is choose something very specific that only both of them would know.
The day they met.
Very high IQ
There
stuff.
you go.
There's a lot of knife play in this movie. A lot of throats being slit. And the young girl getting punched in the face. But that was, I guess, the first murder, right? That happened?
Yeah, because the little girl didn't die. She
didn't die.
She just got knocked the fuck
Yeah,
out.
Yeah, she just got...
Invisible Man goes from ruining her interview by taking away her portfolio.
It goes from just fucking with her to framing her for murder, essentially.
Yeah, and then stealth impregnation.
Of her, like of her own sister, and the knife just appeared in her hand. Like how do you get her to just be like, oh, I have a knife now? But
Did you notice too that they kind of just like stopped caring about the fact that her sister died?
I was watching. I thought that like her sister.
She mentioned it in the last scene,
and no one saw it at the rest. They're sitting down at a restaurant, with her sister,
who was very rude to the waiter
for no reason, just being a fucking total bitch to the waiter.
He's just like, hey, you know how things work.
Trying to do his job.
He's like he's getting paid below minimum wage. He's like, yeah, get us tap water.
I feel bad for that guy, that poor guy.
Yeah, it's like, it's good. I'm glad you're dead. Fuck
Yeah.
I wish the waiter just like came up, like the Invisible Man's about to shank her, but then the waiter comes up, fuck you.
Yeah,
He
pretty
just
much.
like snaps in that moment.
Yeah, so the floating knife cuts her throat and then magically appears, like almost like she's
It's like Half-Life Alex. She just like gravity guns it into her hand.
Yeah.
What?
I feel like I need to see that scene again.
And then she just has it.
And she's dead before she hits the fucking ground.
Yeah, she's
dude.
dead before she hits the ground.
It's like that knife went into her spinal cord and ended her brain. It was unreal.
That knife cut her soul.
And that was like a fancy restaurant. There's no camera in there or no one else that saw a floating knife cut this lady's throat. Like everybody missed it.
I love the reaction of that. The people sitting at the table. So they're kind of just slowly like, hey, what happened?
Hey, what's
They're
going
like
on here?
NPCs.
That's
like NPCs in a stealth game.
dude. This is NPC the movie. Like every character is an NPC.
Oh god, that hospital shootout was so frustrating. And the cops go in 2 by 2, waiting to be set. They do not enter until 2 other cops are killed.
Yeah, it's very video game-esque. Like next wave coming in.
They're physically unable to come in all at the same time.
Guys, I'm sorry. I rewatched the clip, and
How was it? Was it better this time?
I'm lying. I watched it 4 times. They're making eye contact. They're talking. Right, and it cuts back to main girl, and the knife is floating next to her head, and then it goes across, and she holds her right hand out, and the knife flies back into it, and that's it. Why does that happen? Or does he like grab her wrist and pull it?
Sure, I mean that makes sense, and I guess
It just looks too intentional. It looks too choreographed. It looks like she was ready to receive a football pass. She puts her hand out to catch it like Thor's hammer.
I think that's what you're not understanding what I'm saying. That thing I circled in the image, I'm wondering if that's meant to imply that his hand is holding her arm up to catch it. Is what I'm saying.
But how does it get thrown?
Well, if he cut the girl's throat, it's in his hand, and then he puts it
you
into
just
her.
bring
hand.
it over.
I know that's what was supposed to happen, but that's not what it looks like.
We should not have to be analyzing frame by frame to understand what's happening, but that is what I think is happening.
I'm done talking about that.
Why?
Because it's awful.
I think it's the best part of the whole movie.
It was certainly the most confusing.
Well, that's the first time anything like real bad happened, I guess.
Yeah, that's true. Real bad. If you don't count,
What's
if you
real
don't count
bad?
the face punch.
It's punching the kid in the face.
I mean,
Yeah, she's like safe from COVID at that distance, and yet the kid doesn't think.
the kid's like, "You hit me! You hit me!"
It's like, what? I'm over here. Like, what do you hide?
She's like, "No, I didn't."
It's like a Mad TV video. It's like, what? No, I didn't. You're waiting for Ashton
hit me.
Kutcher to jump out. Oh, he's been punked. Here's my bro, the Invisible Man. Check out this suit. What are your guys' take on the end? You know?
Well, again, I don't know. Was it his brother the whole time? Because when they did kill the Invisible Man and they pulled off his mask, you know, like it was Scooby-Doo, it was fucking the brother.
And that's the thing. There was a scene in the hospital where it kind of.
Well, like if you commit a crime, she's gonna get money, and it was like if you ever commit a crime or something, you can't have the money now, and then she's framed for murder. Oh my god!
Right, and then he like not so subtly explains that pretty much yes, I am in on this.
Right, where he knows something. Right, and they find this guy locked in the basement, so his story is like, it was him the whole time. Okay, was it? I don't know, maybe. And then she kills him anyway, in front of a cop. And walks away with the invisible suit. So now
quite clearly, the cop knows that she put on the invisible suit, murdered a guy.
Looks like a suicide. Looks like a suicide to me. Yeah, he slit his own throat from behind.
on camera, by the way.
So just to say, this suit must give you some superhuman abilities too, then, because it also puts you in double time and makes you laser accurate.
Again, holding a knife while you're invisible would make it look like magic.
No, Keith, he doesn't have telekinesis.
Keith, I think you're confused by the movie. He was just invisible the whole time. He didn't have mind powers.
Are you done?
He's like Mr. Fantastic, not Professor Xavier.
Yeah. Guys, the mummy wasn't even in this movie. 1 out of 5.
He actually was in the hospital. They panned over to a guy wrapped all in gauze.
Oh shit! You're fucking right.
That just popped into my head. I'm dead serious.
No, dude, you're absolutely correct.
They also had like a weird cameo where she wakes up and for whatever reason, this kid that she's sleeping in the same room with has this frightening mannequin positioned right next to the bed just to make sure she's terrified at night. And it's got the classic like Invisible Man getup, you know, like the hat.
Oh, you know it's important to bring up the observation while we were watching the discount Jake Gyllenhaal.
Yeah, oh yeah, one of the cops investigating.
That was so weird. I really thought it was him at first.
Yeah, but for such a tiny role, like that, he didn't even say anything. Really.
Doing someone
but
a favor.
that's what like Jake Gyllenhaal would do that. He's the type of dude that'd be like, yeah, I'll be in that as an extra for 2 seconds for no reason. Because he's weird. He's a weird guy. Let's get him on the podcast.
Yeah, let's get him on the podcast. Jake Gyllenhaal, let's discuss The Invisible Man.
Why you weren't in it.
Yeah, we'll discuss how there is no more Invisible Man because she was murdered.
She has the suit now, so what's stopping her from becoming...
That's at least my hope, is that it almost like kind of goes in the direction of Hollow Man, where it's like, for whatever sense of this was justice, that will slowly corrupt into, you know, oh, I have this power. I can do anything.
Maybe it's a surface level interpretation, but from this movie, I got that this felt like this was, you were supposed to feel vindicated and satisfied for her. That she got back at her abuser, even though we have never literally seen anything like this happen. It's strongly implied, but it's not like, okay, we've seen what he's done.
Right, that's what I'm, yeah, like if
and you build up, then like you hate this guy, like you want to see him taken out. You never get that.
We needed some of their relationship, whether it was a flashback or it starts with, you know, Act 1 was them together and you know, midpoint / climax of Act 1 is her escaping. Not trying to do their jobs for them, but I think a better title for this movie would have been Invisible. Because then you kind of you make it a little more, you know, a little bit more ambiguity going there, and it's like an invisible threat. Like, what's invisible?
What do you think, Glenn?
I think he was just invisible and didn't have mind powers.
Honestly, same.
You're wrong.
Well, no.
It was telekinesis the whole time. It was actually the working title for the script was called The Telekinesis Man.
See, now that I would have believed. That would have changed everything.
Nothing ever changes. War never changes. Everything stays the same. We're still stuck inside, and we're gonna be forced to watch Blumhouse movies for the rest of our lives. Next, we're gonna watch The Hunt.
God bless.